How's it going, everybody? It's Barry with Vulcan Glass Art Studio. Today's going to be the second project in our Intro to Marbles series, the Latticino marble. Now this is going to use a lot of the same techniques that you used in our last video, the Nebula marble, but it's going to introduce a level of control that you didn't need in your last project. As always, all of the glass and tools that you need are going to be on screen, so like the video, hit that subscribe button, and let's get started. Alright, so the first step in our Latticino marble is to take one of your 12mm clear rods, and you want to get a pretty big gather on. You have to remember that this is going to be basically half of the size of your finished product, and so you can use that to kind of eyeball exactly how big you want it to be. So once you've got this gathered up, we're going to bring it over to the graphite and smush it flat. You can see how I'm moving the glass back and forth from the flame to ensure that a nice big section gets heated. And you don't necessarily want this to be a straight ball. It can kind of be a little oblong like that. That's kind of what you're looking for. And then we get it nice and hot and bring it over to the marver and smush it flat. So you got kind of a lollipop. Then you want to set this in the kiln and make a second one, but I actually already have one sitting in the kiln, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step with this one. So now you're going to add your color. First you want to add your center color. And remember, there's the divot. You want to go on the flat side. Same as in the Nebula marble. Go ahead right down the center. Lay a reasonably thick line of color. Just like that. Then take your secondary color, and you're going to lay down two lines. You're going to lay one on either side of the color line that you just laid. That, and then go to this side, and remember you're going to want to kind of push towards the line of color a little bit so that you don't trap any air bubbles. So now you've got, in my case, two lines of cobalt blue surrounding a line of amber purple. So then heat up just your color. You're going to bring it over to the marver and smush it again. Alright, so as long as all the texture's gone, you're good to go. Go ahead and grab your other lollipop that you made earlier, and you kind of want to heat both of them at the same time. This one's already pretty hot, so I'm using the heat that's bouncing off my other one to keep this one hot. And you only want to heat one surface of each piece. So the bottom surface of this one and the colored surface of this one. Hotter they are, the less chance you have of, that's right, you guessed it, trapping air bubbles. So once they are nice and hot and they're starting to move, out of the flame you're going to press the two of them together. And I always then press on the angle marver a couple times so that they seal together really nicely. Now you're going to take one side, heat up the knuckle joint. Once it's nice and hot, you just want to press it on the marver and straighten it. And so that straightening, it's just to realign your axis properly. And then you go over to the other one and do the same thing on that side. Nice and hot.
straight. In this particular project, the angle marver, you can do it without it, but this thing helps a lot. Turn your torch down a little bit and start heating that spot that you just pulled down. And you actually want to flame cut one of the 12 mils off. So you have these little creases, these little ridges. You want to make sure you melt all of those down and press them down with the smusher so that they don't get air bubbles trapped in them later on in the process. So pick one edge. This one's the worst one for mine. Get it nice and hot. And then you're just going to take your smusher and run it down. Kind of at an angle, rolling it over. And it will seal. Go on the other side, do the same thing. Anywhere that crease is really bad. Just close it up. Also do this anywhere that the color peeks out. Alright. So now we're going to get this nice and hot. At this step, you're going to add a handle back on. You can do the 12 millimeter or you can do a 6 millimeter. I just prefer the 6 millimeter, makes things think a little bit easier later, but the 12 millimeter will give you a little bit more stability. So you want this to get really, really hot, focusing your heat away from the 6 mil if you're using it. And then go to a smaller flame, and you're going to twist it very little. Unlike the Nebula marble, you don't want to just go crazily twisting away, because you want this to be a nice, crisp, clean DNA twist, or Latticino, inside your piece. So once you get that, twist it just a little bit. Don't twist it anymore. You're just going to try to get it to gather and reduce the amount of creases and stuff in your glass. So by putting it into a cylinder like that, I'm making it easier to gather everything up without continuing to twist my Latticino. You can push a little to kind of help it get into that marble shape. And then at this point, there's going to be texture on there, but you can get rid of that pretty easily later in later steps. So we're going to go ahead and take this off the big 12 millimeter rod. Now at each end, there's always this spot where the color didn't quite get encased completely. So you want to make sure you pull that off. And then flame cut it off. And now we're going to move over to the marble mold. So get your piece nice and hot. And just like you did in the previous one, start with your largest, and we're just going to marble it down, which apparently is a verb now. Press a little. And don't worry so much about the top half, you really just want to get a nice marbled bottom half. You can mess with the other piece later. Alright, that's pretty good. Now I'm going to add a handle to the other side. I'm going to do a cold seal, heat up the handle, not the piece, touch it at the end. This time you're going to have to flame cut this. Because obviously that wasn't a cold seal. And just like on the other side, find any spot where the color is peeping out and not completely encased and clear and pull that off. Alright, so just like every other marble, at this stage when you have cold seals you want to pretty much just work one half of the marble at a time. Start with the big cup on your mold and work your way down. This one looks like it's also going to be the second largest cup on the mold. Rotate it, change the angle. And remember that anytime you put it in the mold, you have to put it back in the flame for a second afterwards. Otherwise, there's going to be tons of creases all over your piece. Alright, that's a pretty solid marble. Now we're going to change the axis. Touch it at an angle. Tap. Get the bottom half to 2/3 nice and hot. Run it through the mold. And you'll be able to feel if there's creases or cracks or bumps or whatever when you're running it through the mold. Heat it up. Now it's time to take it off of our handle. So grab your 4mm. Let your piece cool down for a minute. You want it to be pretty cold before you attach this 4mm, otherwise you're going to leave a big crease or crack when you tap this off, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult to fill in. Also let the handle cool for a second, because this is the last seal, so you want it to be pretty weak. And because it's weak, holding it at an upward angle kind of helps reduce stress. Heat up that bottom where your previous handle was. Run it through the mold. And then reapply heat to make sure you get rid of any creases. Let that cool all the way down. Then go ahead and set it in your marble mold and tap off the handle. Find the little scar that's left over. Make sure you hit it and all around it in the flame to let it kind of spread out. And there you have your marble. Toss it in the kiln, and you're on to the next one.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoy the content, like the video, hit that subscribe button, and then if you want to support the channel further, check us out on Patreon at Vulcan Glass TV. I'll see you in the next one.